Welcome everyone to another of my fabulous interviews with my go-to experts. And I interview these incredible people that I meet along my journey because being a business owner and entrepreneur can be a really lonely path. And it can be a path where you're looking for all the solutions and you don't know what you need until you find it, or you have no idea what you want. And then you find something and think that's what you need. So it can be really, really overwhelming. You are the everything in your business. You are wearing the finance director's hat, the marketing manager's hat. You're making the coffee and you're putting out the rubbish. And that's why today I am talking to the fabulous Simon Peat. Now, before I come to you, Simon, just a little reminder for everyone, these interviews are bite-sized training. They are to give you those light bulb moments and to make you think, that's what I need to be looking at. My name is Lindsey Burden and I am an intuitive business coach, and I inspire, guide and motivate my clients to create wildly successful businesses and a time-rich lifestyle. But enough about me, because, one, we have a story to tell, but I will come back to that story. But Simon, you are Visiospective Digital Consultancy. And when we tried to record this before, I was so ill, I couldn't even say that. But thank you for joining me today. Now, I always ask for a title, and you gave me a title for your interview today, which is, I need to get this right, get more visitors to your website and customers from your website. Mm-hmm. But before we get talking, before I hit record, you were telling me where your business name came from, and I think we need to share this little story, if you would, Simon.
Sure. So Visiospective stands for Vision's Perspective. And the reason I chose it as a business name is because I had a blog, which was my perspective on life. And Vision comes from my school days. It was my nickname at school. And it was because I got a school report from a teacher that was taking us for games, which said, Simon has done well at football. He has good vision for the game. And a couple of my mates saw my school report before I got it home to my mum, and they started calling me the Boy Vision, and that nickname stuck. And I set up a blog for that. And then when I was setting up the business, I didn't want to do the blog anymore. And I thought, I've got a domain. There we go. We'll use that.
And I love that. And that makes, well, it shows you how simple business can be. We overthink so many things, don't we?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to be talking about websites. Now, I asked for sort of a few lines of introduction, and you shared with me, Simon is on a mission to share his 15 years of e-commerce and website experience and help get more businesses converting visitors to paying customers. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background in e-commerce, because I'm sure there will be many tips today that will be shared that people can use on any website and use in their businesses. But you particularly focus on e-commerce, don't you?
Yeah, so I got into e-commerce the mid-2000s. So I think it was actually the end of 2006. I was working for a very well-known UK mobile phone provider, or cell phone if you're in the US. I was working in the sales team, and they wanted to bring a lot more business directly to, rather than going through phone stores and things like that. Yeah. And an opportunity came up in e-commerce. And I had done a bit of computing at university. I'd sort of messed around with websites, so I thought that was a good move. And so I moved into e-commerce. I progressed well, and that's what I've been working in ever since. So that's why.
And I don't know if this question is relevant, but e-commerce to me is just such a big industry, and it can feel quite overwhelming. So you obviously feel a connection to it, and I'm just wondering where that comes from.
I think some of it actually is the geeky side of me.
Okay.
When I first started in e-commerce, one of my jobs, so the head of e-commerce at the company said, can you do all of the analytics and building spreadsheets and everything like that? And I quickly realized that actually the key to success in things like e-commerce and websites in general is understanding what's going on. And the advantage that e-commerce has over bricks and mortar stores is that everything can be tracked. So you can see how many visitors are coming, you can see where they've come from, you see where they go to, you see what they do on the page, etc. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get across to clients and other people, because actually you can get a massive understanding about what's happening in your business from it. And it doesn't just apply to e-commerce. If you've just got a website where you're selling your service, but no one's seeing your website, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
If they're coming to your website, but then they're not doing anything, then that's also a problem. And it's just understanding. When I say my mission is to basically to get people to understand that that's a problem and to help them overcome that problem.
We use the word website when we talk about websites all the time, and I think there is such an array of website from, your one pager, and then there's sales pages and landing pages and everything else. But ultimately, I guess as a business owner, we want people to find us, and we want to be able to showcase ourselves. And you said something really interesting there, and it's got me thinking. It's why I love talking to my experts. I'm like already thinking. There is a real challenge for those of us who are not e-commerce, because the analytics is different. There is not enough data. But I think what I'm getting from you is that is the power, actually, for a good website. And it's the understanding, isn't it? It's the detail behind it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found, and someone I worked with put it a lot better than me, which, and I'm going to repeat what he said, is that people often see a website as a commodity. So when you set up a business, you think, right, what do I need? I need a bank account. I need a website, because everyone's got a website. And they get something built which looks pretty, and then they leave it and forget about it. When actually this can be a major tool to getting business. If you have a website and no one sees it, then it's not. I used to use the term, it's not working hard enough for your business. It's just invisible. So what is the point in having it? And I get that. I mean, I've messed around with building websites as well. And I actually built one for my late father-in-law, and he said, I just want something which just proves that the business is there. No one's going to look at it because everyone knows me rather than the business. But what the problem I have is that if I don't have a website, people are going to look up the company name, and they're not going to be able to find it. And they say, "Oh, am I still in business?
Yeah.
Is my business still going?" So I get that, and that's fine. You just put that there and you forget about it. But if you're actually trying to bring customers in, the website can play quite a big role in doing that, because it can, if people are searching for, I don't know, you're an accountant and people are searching for accountants near me, they'll find you. They can find out your phone number on there. They can see that people have given testimonials, which is so important. I can't emphasize it enough. They can see what kind of work that you do. They can find out all the information and get all the answers to their questions before they even pick up the phone or drop you an email. And that's the power of them.
So what you're telling us is the power is understanding the back end, is understanding the analytics. What you've now said is we need to understand and be clear on the purpose of our website. Now, e-commerce is slightly different, because obviously you want to sell through it.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, we still need to understand, I guess, the primary purpose of our website, because that enables us to create something that is valuable to us and
Yeah.
takes it beyond that asset.
Yeah. I mean, I will quite often ask a client, what do you want the website to do for your business? So it might be, so let's use the accountant version again. It's kind of like, probably want to book an appointment with you. I don't know, maybe you do a free consultation, a free 20-minute consultation, and you want people to book that. Well, you have to find out, you have to get customers to the website and get them to click the button which says book an appointment. And if they're not doing that, you need to find out, A, whether there's enough visitors to your site.
Yeah.
And then how many of those are clicking the button? And if they're not clicking the button, why they're not clicking the button? And actually, you could, find out who's come to your website, and you can interview them and say, why, what was the issue? Or you can look at the data, which is a lot easier. You can use things like heat mapping, which shows where people are clicking. You can see, you can set the website to have a sort of screen recorder on there, and you can see where the mouse is going, and maybe they're not. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, obviously, I work in websites, and at Christmas, I had to book a hotel because me and my wife were going away. I couldn't find the booking button. The booking button was right in the top right-hand corner, but it was the wrong color, and I just couldn't see it. And I was like, how the hell do I book? I just we knew we wanted to stay at this hotel. It'd been recommended to us. I couldn't find the booking button. And but part of the problem is that when you actually when it's your website, you know where the booking button is.
Yeah.
But what you have to understand is a visitor coming doesn't know your website. They don't know where to look. And if it's not obvious, sometimes that might be the problem, because I would say if they can't find it in 3 or 4 seconds, they might be going somewhere else. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I have to say, if anyone can see me writing notes, there's a good reason. One, I need to come back to all of these really important points, but one, I need to remember them for myself. So, do you think that's part of the problem? Because I want to come back to this analytics, because you and I have had a couple of calls. We did try to record this once before when it turned out I was just not on my game and couldn't. But since doing that, it has, you've really got me thinking about the data. You've really got me thinking about what's going on behind the scenes and using that. Do you think, though, for many of us, it's quite scary going in there? And I don't mean from a point of view that you can do something wrong or you can break anything. I just mean you going, is that all the visitors I'm getting? So I think there is a fear for many people not wanting to do that piece of work, because especially if you're at the beginning of your journey, you've created this lovely website, it's you're connected to it, it's your baby, you've put it out there and it's part of your business, and you don't really want to know if it's working or not.
Yeah, I get that, and I'm the same when I look at my own websites.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah, of course, because it's your pride and joy. But if you don't, I mean, at least if you know that no one's looking at it, then you know that you need to get people looking at it. And yeah, then that's a problem. And obviously, I think that's something we're going to talk about, is getting people to actually get to the website. And I think I would say the people I speak to just in networking and things like that, a lot of the problems that they have is that's their main concern, is getting traffic to the website. And there's various different ways you can do that. But quite often people are getting plenty of traffic there. It's just not converting. So that's where I try and help.
Okay. I'm just writing this question down. Can't get my words out. Okay, so let's go back to, how do we get traffic to our websites?
Well, I think the first question you have to ask is, where do your clients hang out? There's a great businessman and author in the US called Ramit Sethi, who wrote a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And the term he uses is go to where the fishes are, and using a fishing analogy. So if you go fishing, you need to go where there's fish.
Yeah.
And he tells a story of he'd go fishing with his dad, and his dad would go to where basically there was a pipe with water coming out of it from another lake. And there just used to be tons of fish, and they just go and fish there. And people would say, oh, that's cheating. And it's like, well, it's where the fish are.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digressed a lot.
Story.
It's so basically, for example, if you are, let's say, a local business, you're a local builder or a plumber or something like that, then certain social medias, I'm thinking probably Facebook, are quite good for that. So it might be worth doing some Facebook advertising, going on Facebook posts, things like that. I mean, the big one that people always talk about is SEO, because I think that it's something that's talked about, but no one really understands what it is. And there's a lot of sharks out there who will tell you they're doing their SEO and charging you a lot of money to do not a lot. But I mean, SEO is really it's not so much a science. It's just the basics of getting your website so that the search engines like Google will find it and they will index in the right place. So when Google sends its little bots around your website, it needs to know that, using the accountant again, you are an accountant, you're in this town, and these are the services that you offer. And if it can do that, it will index you for those things and people will be able to find you. That's basically what SEO is. And it's incredible how many people have their websites built and it's not set up to do just that thing. And that should be the first thing that your website does. It can look pretty, it can look amazing, it can have lovely pictures, but if it doesn't really explain to Google and to the visitor what you do, then it's pointless having it there. You might as well not bother. And then, of course, you can pay to get Google to put you higher up in its search engine, and you can use social media. And social media can be very powerful. Obviously, I've mentioned Facebook. If you're in a sort of more B2B place, then LinkedIn is good. But some of the more modern ones, I mean, TikTok is very good for business coaches, apparently. So I've been told by my resident TikToks expert, of which I am not. But yeah, you can get great success. Apparently, TikTok has got a very good search algorithm, so it will help people to find you. So there you
Oh,
go.
no,
No,
no, no, no.
you don't have to do any dancing or anything. It's just
My daughter would be fuming. You've mentioned social media a few times, and I think for now, I'm going to be careful here because I'm not a massive fan. I think for e-commerce, social media is so powerful for some of the reasons that you've already talked about. Um, I just think for many of us, it just becomes a really noisy place.
Mhm.
And we don't feel as I used to teach social media. I used to teach businesses to use social media. Now I'd rather run to the hills and shout a message from the top, because that's kind of how it feels for me with social media. But I think there is that difference, isn't there? And you've alluded to that actually. It's about knowing where the fishes are, and it's about going to them in that place, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's about personal preference and understanding your audience. So you've also mentioned SEO, and you did a really good job actually of explaining what SEO is, because I think you're absolutely right. So many of us don't really understand it, don't really know how to use it. And so therefore, I don't think I'm maximizing it. And you've talked about social media and the different platforms, and I will not be on a TikTok platform anytime soon. However, is there anything else we can do? What else can we do? Because you've kind of, talked about the ways of driving traffic, but how do we ensure that our traffic is the right traffic? I know that goes back to the fish. But also, how do we ensure that our websites are attracting that? And you do mention that in your sort of notes. It's about our copy as well, isn't it?
Mm. I mean, you have to take it from the point of view of someone that knows nothing about you. I mean, one of the good things I do actually when I'm doing some work on a website is actually get my wife to look at it and say, "Can you just tell me?" Because I'll get her to come in the room, just look at it, and say, "Right, tell me what the website's about," because she's coming in with completely sort of clear set of eyes, no prejudice, no knowledge or anything like that. And I think I put a LinkedIn post saying, just do that. Get your other half, get a friend just to look at the website and just say, what's this about? You have to remember that if a visitor is coming to the website, they've got a problem. There's a reason they've come to your website. They've got a problem. Are you clearly showing that you can solve that problem? So let's use the accountant again. I don't know. I need to do my taxes at the end of the year. I don't know how to do them. I need someone to help me. Can you help? Can you on your website convince that visitor that you can do that? So if it says, yeah, I can do your end of year taxes, great. Okay. How do I know I can trust you? And this is a massive thing. I post on LinkedIn quite a lot about the power of testimonials. And you go to a website and you have to go to 2 clicks or something to find the testimonials. You want that testimonial as front and center as possible, because humans will not listen to the accountant because they don't trust them yet. Humans will listen to other humans. So, for example, I mean, how many times do you, as an individual, if I don't know, there's a new restaurant in town, you ask someone, is it any good? Or you look online or something. You buy something on Amazon, the first thing you look at is the reviews. So you need to prove that you are trustworthy. You need other people saying, yeah, do you know what? I did my taxes, really good rates, so much easier, and I've not got a problem anymore with my taxes. if you're in the e-commerce space, it's like, okay, will this solve my problem? So will this widget do what this widget's meant to do? Will it be delivered? Will it be here tomorrow? How much does it cost to do that? What happens if it doesn't work? All these things that you have to ensure that you are covering off. Because if there's an element of doubt somewhere in the process from when they put it in the basket and then they check out, and this is a point actually, in e-commerce, if you go to the checkout, you will see probably 75% of people drop out in the checkout because there's something along the line that they don't like. Now, and some of the crazy things it might be like, you put your address in slightly wrong, doesn't like it, but it doesn't show you where the error is. So you're like looking up and down, eventually it drives you nuts and you go elsewhere. You're not convinced that it's safe to put your credit card details in. Or you haven't said what the delivery charge is, and suddenly, boom, there's a delivery charge, and it's like, I don't know, 10 quid. And I'm not paying that. I can get it off Amazon and they'll deliver it tomorrow for free. I don't know what's going to happen if it goes wrong or something like that. A really good example actually is a American company, clothing company, started selling in the UK. And it, funnily enough, we mentioned it earlier, it came up on my social media. I was like, oh, that's quite nice. I'll go and have a look. Oh, I quite like that shirt. And I put it in the basket, got to checkout, and suddenly it jumped up 10 quid. And I messaged them and I said, why has it gone up £10? Oh, that's the delivery charge. And I was like, no. The delivery charge is there as well. What's this extra? And because my wife is American, so I've spent a lot of time in America, I realized what it was. Is because in America, you show prices and then taxes added at the checkout, because the sales taxes are different in each state.
Yeah.
And they hadn't adjusted their website for them. And I just said, by the way, you might have a problem in the UK with that because we are used to VAT being included.
Yeah.
And that could, I mean, they could be losing a ton of people in the checkout just for that reason, because it's like, why is that jumped up? And it took me quite a while to realize what was going on. So it's the whole journey all the way through. And this is why analytics is so powerful, because you could probably see 50 people coming to your site and only one person clicking the button. But it could be a journey of 3 or 4 pages, and you have to find out where that problem is.
I'm still flabbergasted that 70% of people don't check out.
Well, or they drop out in that checkout process. It's usually, I would say, I'm trying to think of an example, like a business that I've worked in the percentage of people coming to the website, or the percentage of people buying from the percentage of people that actually came to the website, is usually between 1.5% and 2%. But the people going into the checkout, it was probably about 5 or 6%. But the rest of them dropped out in the bit where they're paying their money. That is actually a crucial bit when it comes to actually handing over the credit card details. That's a big moment in the purchase process.
I sometimes don't check out because then they'll send you a voucher.
Well, there is that, and this is another thing, because when I first started in e-commerce, this was quite a new thing, that if they had put their email address in but they hadn't checked out, you fired off an email. Now, part of that obviously is kind of like, come back and we'll give you 10% off, but it's also, why did you not check out? Because sometimes they'll say, oh, because it wouldn't accept this, you wouldn't accept this credit card, it didn't like my mobile phone number, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I get busy and forget what I'm doing.
This is another thing. It's like, oh, the doorbell went, and then I came back and I was like, oh, actually, I'm not sure I want it.
Yeah.
You know? So
well,
yeah.
that's also why the process needs to be simple and easy, because you don't want people to get distracted. You want to get them through that process. So
Yes.
from an e-commerce point of view, that really does make sense. So you've kind of touched on, and the accountant is such a great example. You need somebody to land on your website and to show them that you can solve their problem. And although I'm not asking or expecting you to have the answer to this question, but I think it's really interesting because I follow a lot of copywriters, and it's write it this way and it's write it that way. And I have written things in the past and it's felt really good and it's kind of followed that process from that person. You can put it into my website and, handy little Yoast thing comes along and goes, that's rubbish for SEO. So I think there is a real challenge for, those of us not in e-commerce who are trying to write copy that resonates and that connects. Then you pop it into the website and boom, you go, oh, no, now I've got to start changing it. What's wrong with it? It also can improve your writing, I might add. So it's not always all bad. But I think this goes back, doesn't it? When on your website, you need to show that you understand who your customer is, you understand the problems that they have, and you're communicating with them a solution.
Yeah.
But I want to come back because that all makes really good sense to me. But I want to come back to this piece around testimonials and credibility, which in e-commerce, your field of expertise is really easy to do because there's all these different platforms that you can plug in and it's telling everyone, and everyone loves writing a review for products they've purchased because then they get, 10% off their next order. It's all great and it's there. And I think for those of us that don't have e-commerce, it becomes a bit more of a challenge. So I've got a question. I have seen many websites with like as many testimonials on it as, you could shake a stick at. I'm always very wary of testimonials that have been plugged in, have just been dropped into, it's a testimonial page. Come and see what my customers have said. I'm always quite wary of that because I wonder because I'm cynical. I'm like, have they really written those? And I think that's a struggle for many of us who, are not e-commerce. Yes, we can use Google reviews, and yes, we can have reviews on LinkedIn, but that doesn't necessarily draw into our websites.
So I think that well, one of the things you could definitely do, and this comes back to the SEO bit, is to have a Google My Business page where people put their reviews in. So then it's definitely not fake, because you can't you can't basically do a Google review for yourself. It's not possible to do that. One thing I would also say is if you have a testimonial that's not good, don't hide it.
Yeah.
What you do, but respond to it.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the most important things is because everyone makes mistakes. It's human nature that you make a mistake and things go wrong. It's how you deal with it.
Yeah.
If using an example, if you're, I don't know, an airline, and I don't know, you lost someone's bags, it's how you dealt with it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because excuse my French, shit happens.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I would say that you can do with testimonials is you can make them into actual content, which is to turn them into a case study, because you probably only need 3 or 4 lines of a testimonial, but then you expand it out by explaining how you helped this client. So let's use the accountants again. Oh, I helped Mrs. Bloggs with her taxes and everything. And then you feed the testimonial. Mrs. Bloggs said, oh, yes, he's this accountant solved my problems, and now I don't have to worry about my taxes anymore. Couldn't be happier, etc., etc. And then you've got a whole content piece. And one of the things I should mention about SEO is Google loves content. So if you're writing a blog post every week, Google likes it because it finds out more about what you do. And ultimately, Google is trying to direct people to good content. So that's one thing I would say on testimonial.
I used to write a blog a week for that very reason. And then I went to twice a month. And interestingly, I fall out of that habit. When I do it weekly, it happens. I fell out of it. So I need to get back into that, actually. And you've given me a brilliant idea, because I used to have case studies on my website, and they were really old, and they were from quite a long time ago. So I stripped them all out and took them away. But now I've just thought, well, I could write blogs around blog content and include lines of testimonials. So thank you for that idea. I told you I always need a pen when you talk to Simon, because the ideas just keep on coming. Thank you for doing that, because I think that's really important. And it is much, much easier for e-commerce to have that credibility, because that's what you're talking about, isn't it? It's that know, like, and trust, and part of that credibility piece, so that someone feels able to give you their credit card details. So I really, really like.
I'd say a couple of other tips just with regards to testimonials. Sometimes, particularly if you're in the service space, it's hard to get a testimonial off someone because they say, oh, yeah, I'll do it. And then you're chasing them. Write the testimonial for them. Obviously, it doesn't work with the Google reviews, but if you're doing it on something like LinkedIn or you're putting it on your website, write the testimonial, send it to them. Is this okay? Can I use this? And all they have to do is reply yes. So that means you have a testimonial, they've approved it, etc. The other thing I would say is never, ever, ever fake a testimonial because people can see through it.
Yeah.
There was a store actually. My wife bought a lamp, and she just looked at the overall testimonials, and it was like 4.1 stars or something. And I read all the good reviews when we had problems, and I was like, oh my God, these have just been written because they were all the same, and they were just not written by a human. So just never fake them. Just even if you only have one genuine one, use that genuine one, put it center. And as I say, if you have a bad one, reply to it and say how you resolve the problem, because that is super, super powerful.
Yeah, I totally agree with that replying. I used to, in my days of teaching social media, I always used to say, if you have a bad review or a bad comment, reply, and where you can, take the conversation offline. So people can see that you've had a conversation and take it offline.
Yeah.
There is a challenge around that, I do know, because I've had clients who have had poor Google reviews, and they're like, I don't even know who this person is. And that's a challenge. But I think Google have actually got better, I think, at helping you to remove reviews that don't belong to you. So that
Okay.
is really good. And I just want to continue on this sort of testimonial piece. I think the key is to ask, because since I've met you, I finished with 2 particular clients, and I immediately went out and like, and if you feel up to it and would like to and have a few minutes, would you? So I had 2 new Google reviews because I asked, and I sent them the link. And I think we was frightened of asking, but in retail, people are great at giving good, bad, and ugly reviews. But as business owners, we're really frightened of asking.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be. I mean, if people are happy with what you've done, they're usually happy to do it. Obviously, as I say, sometimes they're short of time, which is why I just writing some of it for them. But yeah, most people are happy to do it because particularly if they're in the sort of small business space as well, they know how powerful it can be.
Yeah.
Which is what, I'm always happy to write one if I've had good service from someone, and other people are as well. People are generally good, despite what everyone says.
If anyone is looking for a way today of bringing joy into the lives of a small business owner somewhere, go give them a review, because
Review.
you
Yeah.
will make their day. I don't know a business owner who wouldn't do a little jump for joy and, a big smile. So yeah, if you're thinking of doing something, do it today.
Just thought of one other little tip, and this is particularly when you're starting out, because sometimes if you need to get credibility, the
Yeah.
way to do it is to say, I will do this for you for free. All I ask is for a testimonial. And I've done that lots of times. I said, I'm just not going to charge you anything apart from 5 minutes of your time to write a testimonial if you were happy with it. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because there's a lot of people out there going, well, I'm just starting out. How do I even get reviews? And I think sometimes we forget the work that we've already done, because sometimes there is potentiality to ask someone for a review who may have worked with you previously, perhaps not in the business. And I think it goes back to, as long as they are honest, I think that's okay. So if you're starting out, don't be fearful of asking someone in the way that you've just suggested, Simon, and also asking someone who perhaps previously worked with, because providing it's honest and authentic, we all have to start somewhere, don't we?
We do, absolutely.
Yeah. In my head, I'm going, who can I leave a review to today? Because it does make people smile. Okay, I just want to check back onto the notes that I had. So there were 3 points here on the form when I asked you to fill it out. I had everything. And they were: solve someone's problem. I think we've covered that off quite well. It's really important that on your website, you are helping the visitor to understand how you can solve their problem. Prove, so that's our credibility piece, really, isn't it? And then remove any concerns. And I think you've covered that off really, really well. Also, so we've managed to cover all of those things off. But so we got people to our website. We know the purpose of our website. And you've talked well about that process between arriving and then purchasing if you're e-commerce. Is there anything else that you think, particularly an e-commerce business out there, should really know?
One of the things that I would say, and I've talked about this on LinkedIn, is the I'm trying to think of the right word, choices. So if you think about, let's use a clothes store example. So you've got a high-end boutique. When you walk into a place like that, it's very open. They only put a few clothes out. And you compare that to going into, say, TK Maxx, where there's high piles of clothes and racks and everything like that. And what I'm talking about here is the choices that people have to make. So people get exhausted by making choices. So therefore, if you can help them make the choice quickly and easily, then it means they are more likely to make a purchase. If you make it hard for them to make a choice, or you give them too many choices, so it's a fine balance between them, then that is also a way to get more people to convert. I mean, another example is I've seen restaurants that shrink their menu right down.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, people don't have as many choices to make, so therefore they'll decide quicker. And they'll
less wastage.
less wastage.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and actually that it made up part of my LinkedIn post today is about, if someone is coming to your website, and I mean, this is particularly in sort of clothing and travel, and they've got a fair idea what they want. They know what size they are, they know what color they want, all that sort of thing. Just make it easy for them to find that. Don't make them have to scroll through, pages and pages of clothes before they find the one that they want. Allow them to filter. Let's say I want a black medium size t-shirt. T-shirts, black, medium, boom, done. Checkout. Just make it easy. The easier you make it for someone to make a decision, the more likely it will be they'll convert.
And I think that's really true for all of us, not just e-commerce. Certainly some of the work I'm doing is I'm just like shrinking everything down to make it easier, because if, when clients come to me, they're already overwhelmed. I don't want to add to where they're overwhelmed, because now they don't know how to work with me or which way to work with me. So that's something I've been really, really conscious of. And I think that's come about as well for me, is this world we are in is so fast paced. And actually, I want people to slow down. And if you've got less choice, I think you just sit back a little. And that's part of the experience. You mentioned something, and I just want to spin back to it. So you talked about the two different stores, and you mentioned TK Maxx compared to a boutique. Other shops are available. And I feel that if you have a bricks and mortar shop and you have an online presence, I want that to be replicated as well. I want to know that I'm getting that same experience shopping online that I would. So, clean and crisp and easy, and, a nice experience. And I sadly feel that that's sometimes missing. But I think that's important as well. And that's the same for e-commerce or not e-commerce. If we use your accountants, for example, want to know when I visit the website and then I go and visit them face to face, it's still the same warm, helpful, that I feel like I can still trust them. It's really important that we mirror that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is your brand, it's your shop window. So if it looks, like it's been cobbled together, last minute, if it's not using photos of you, which is another thing. People use images free images they found on Google or something like that. Why would you do that? Have a photo taken of you doing your work. Why not? Ultimately, using the accounting example, it's you're selling. So
I think that's really important to remember for those of us that are not e-commerce. It is us. Even if you have bricks and mortar and staff, there is often a person, or there is an ethos, there are values behind it, and that needs to be evident.
yeah.
It's been so helpful, and you've covered so much today. And I'm so grateful to you for agreeing to come back and re-record, because I really was not with it when we did take one.
It's
Take
always
two has
great.
been way better.
Good. Glad to hear it.
It's been great. And there was so much there. And there's definitely, I was busy writing away because there was so much that I have taken away. And I, just from meeting you through networking and in that short time, you've really encouraged me, whether you realized or not, to go into the back end of my website and think about what are the analytics I could be looking at and how I can use that information, because there's not much point in looking at it if you're not going then to use it. So that's
That's
important.
the next challenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Simon, if you have piqued anyone's interest today, or someone's gone, oh, I really need to speak to Simon, and they are e-commerce, we just want to check. So e-commerce, yes, absolutely come and see you. But do you work with business owners who are not e-commerce at all?
Yeah, and I'm actually going through a process at the moment of trying to understand how I can help non-e-commerce
Yeah.
in a valuable way at the moment. So kind of watch this space. I'll probably put something on LinkedIn about it. So I mean, in terms of getting in touch with me, LinkedIn is one. I'm on there. I try and post every day. And you can contact me from there. There's a contact button there as well. So those are the easiest ways to get hold of me.
Well, I will make sure that those links are below this video. But Simon, thank you so much for allowing me to talk to you a second time. It
Thank
has
you for having
been,
me again.
well, it has been absolutely packed with golden nuggets for e-commerce businesses and non-e-commerce businesses. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.